Hello, doctor.
Good morning, Mr. Smith. Nice to see you. I stand in your doctors today, and it's good to introduce myself to you. I'm Dr. How can I help you?
Doctor, since I had this heart attack 2 weeks ago, uh, I was sent home and I was okay. 4 days ago, I came home, but I'm
Uh-huh.
really tired all the time. And is it normal?
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It must be a hard time for you, on you, and yes, it is. For these times is normal, but. Before we go over your symptoms or something like that, could you tell me more about what's happened to you so far?
Basically, I had this heart attack, and then I went to hospital, and they said I'm fine. They sent me home 4 days ago, and then here I am, and just nothing, mm, nothing else really. They gave me a lot of medicines actually,
Uh-huh.
and also they mentioned something about rehab or something. But I'm so tired. Do you think I would get back to normal? How much exercise am I allowed? Because the
Mm-hmm.
doctor said if I have another heart attack, it would be much worse than this one. Uh,
Okay.
so I'm just
Okay.
afraid of doing anything.
Okay, I can see that you are worried about your feeling of fatigue, and you want to know about how much exercise do you can or do you need to do. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Is okay. Uh, I reassure you. I would like to reassure you. Not the feeling of fatigues in this time, in this short time, is completely normal, and it takes time to back to the normal feeling, and maybe is about need takes time around 4 or 3 weeks later. And I think that in terms of the activity, it is important to have activity because the activity or regular exercise helps you to keep your weight or your weight for avoiding any others medical issues, for example, increasing cholesterol level of cholesterol in your blood, or other medical risk maybe leads caused the heart problem for you in future. And it is important for starting the exercise under supervision, and I recommended you to join the cardiac rehabilitation program is nearby in the hospital, and you can join this program and doing exercise and gradually increase by supervision. Is it okay?
Okay.
Okay.
And uh,
And
yes, when can I go back to work?
um, is okay. And but back to in terms of back to work, I need to recommended you uh, after is take a time around 4 to 6 weeks as a recovery for general health, general state, and stable your heart condition. And at this time, you can back to your workforce, and it is important that in after that back into work you keep your diet your and avoiding any stress situation, and maybe increase your stress management skills because as you know that all of things is completely related to the heart, and it is important to follow this medication, this
Okay. Yeah.
recommendation.
Okay.
And just to check, what's your plan?
Yeah, it's time. We've just run out of time, but
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Uh, okay. So how did that feel?
I think that I don't know why, but I have more hesitation. Try to follow the structure, and I think that follow this instruction, the RAPO, or um finding the eyes of the patient, and try to find what about the patient so worried about this, and respond to the patient's worry, and give advice and reassurance. And but I think that the hesitation is a lot.
Okay. So what would you give yourself as a score?
I'm not satisfied on maximum 8.
Okay. What went well? Was your structure okay? Uh, when you are the patient comes to you with a problem, you find out what it is, you make a decision, return and address it. Was that okay?
Um, I think that yes.
Okay. And exploring info gathering, exploring eyes,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I try
and
to find.
info giving.
Um, yeah, yes, yes. I think that I try to this because try to explain the patients it's better to doing exercise, join to the cardiac rehabilitation program, and about back to work and increase skills. I try my best.
Okay. I think your rapport was quite good. Don't say nice to see you, nice to meet you to the patient. Okay, that is
Uh-huh.
it is not nice to see a patient, and the patient is doesn't feel it is nice to see you.
Uh-huh.
So that is not appropriate in this consultation or any consultation, basically.
Okay.
Um, you need to show your empathy a bit earlier when he's saying that I had this heart attack. You need to say, "Oh dear," and then uh, so um, and try to be natural. To say, "Oh, oh my God, oh dear," and then they say, "Oh," and when he says, "Well, I was hospitalized for 2 weeks and sent home 4 days ago." I say, "Oh, sorry to hear that, but it's good that you're better now." And then
Uh-huh.
the patient says, "Well, I'm tired all the time. Is that something which is normal?" So you need to reply to that. Say, "Well, it is to some extent." And then you said, "Let me ask you more questions about your signs and symptoms." You don't need that at this point because this is the questioning phase. If you want to change something, if you want to change the direction of your speech, yes, you need to signpost and say, "Okay, I need to ask you some more questions." But no, you haven't asked any questions. Okay,
And I say that could you tell me more about what's happened for you?
what's
Is it
happened to?
correct?
Yeah, could you tell me what happened to you? Well, I said all that. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so that was a repetition. So you could say, all right. So what you're saying is that you were in hospital for 2 weeks and you came back home 4 days ago, and now you're worried about your tiredness. And don't use fatigue. Just say tiredness, the normal speech.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
yeah, and it is fatigue, not fatigue. Okay. The pronunciation is
Fatigue.
fatigue. But yeah, you just
Fatigue.
say tiredness. You don't need to use complicated language. Okay. So you should say, well, yes, your tiredness is normal to some extent. It's you just had a heart attack. Then he says, okay, and how much exercise can I do? Well, as you said, well, you can actually join cardiac rehabilitation program, which is available to you. And okay, you can join cardiac rehabilitation. Join doesn't have any preposition. You don't join to something. You just join something. Okay.
Okay, I know.
So join means going to. Okay. Um, okay. Then you actually spoke about 1.5 minutes without any interruption, and you said and. Okay. So uh, we need to chunk and check. Uh, so every 10 to 15 seconds. We're not supposed to give a lecture. So we need to break more often and say, well, yeah, this is normal for this condition. Is that all right? Yes, that's all right. Okay. And usually you must feel better after about 4 weeks. Is that all right? All right. Okay. And so, can I go back to work? Well, yes, it depends on the job. Uh, Physical jobs require 6 weeks of rest, and non-physical jobs require 4 weeks. Is that all right? Yes, all right. So, what kind of job do you do? Well, I work in an office, so it's probably it's likely you can go back to work after 4 weeks. Okay. So basically, small sentences, small and short episodes of talking. So we don't want to talk continuously. Yes, the importance of exercise, and you basically speak for 1.5 minutes. No. Uh, as you can see, this first part is uh, find out what is worrying the patient. Okay, what is worrying? What is
Okay.
the concern? And be
Uh,
reassuring.
the patient worried about the patient worried about the fatigues, tiredness, and about exercise.
That's right. And then be reassuring, okay? And some fatigue is to be expected. It usually takes some weeks before full energy levels return. Okay, so this is basically in the first part. It is ROPO, information gathering, and then ICE, which is given to you. And then how to reassure is also given to you. This is all information giving. And please remember, this information giving, these 4 bullet points, is just one of the 5 criteria. Okay? So if you don't try to do all of these, because that's only 40 marks, 160 is here. Okay?
Mhm.
So don't get yourself involved in finishing all these and talking just very quickly. No, what we want is all you need to do in this part. This is the last minute basically, and you need to pause in between. You can say, "Well, yes, well, of course, you need to continue with the exercise and the physical activity. Is that okay? Yes, okay. But the doctor said that I would have a worse heart attack. Well, yes, it is possible, but that's why you have been sent to cardiac rehab because they can tell you how much exercise is safe for you, and then you can gradually increase it. Is that all right? That's okay. Now, but the reason we say exercise is important is because it actually lowers your cholesterol, helps you to lose weight, and strengthen your heart. Is that all right? Yes, all right. Okay. So then, when can I go back to work? Well, 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It's depending on the work. What do you do? Well, I'm office work. Okay, so you can go back to work after 4 weeks, and then you can say that. Okay. So basically, you need to chunk and check at each point. You say one concept, very short, one or two sentences, and then check. But the major point, 160 marks, comes here when you actually are structured, when you have a good rapport, information gathering and questioning. And so, what do I mean by information gathering? Well, when the patient says it's tiredness, and when the patient says, I cannot exercise, I'm worried, you need to say how much exercise. You need to explore that. What do you mean by tired all the time? How tired are you? What happens to you? What do you do every day? Do you walk? Do you do any exercise? What do you mean by worried about exercise? How much exercise do you mean? And things like that. Okay. So
یعنی اون چیزایی که مریض روش نگران کانسرنه ازش به جزئیات سوال کنیم.
that is exploring the eyes. Okay. So we not only identify but also explore the eyes. Okay. So here you identified the eyes. Yes, the patient is worried. Okay. But that is, and it tells you why the patient is worried. Or the first step is to find out why the patient is worried. Then you explore it. You go into details. Why are you worried? And what happens? What have you done about it? This worry. What do you think we can do? That is to find the expectation. Okay. And then the patient says, well, I don't know what to do. And you say, well, that is why you have been referred to the cardiac rehab, because they can tell you how much you can exercise. Okay. Uh, and you do it stage by stage. And if you do it correctly, the examiner will cooperate with you. Okay. So we don't want too much complicated language. What we need is simple language, but actually you need to know what you're doing at each stage, and don't talk for too long. Whenever you want to say and go to the next step, that is where you need to stop and say, is that okay? Right? So you said and so you said it lowers, you can bring your cholesterol down, and you can lose weight, and you can strengthen your heart. And so these are the places you need to pause and say, well, actually exercise helps to lower your cholesterol. Is that all right? Okay. And also it helps you to lose weight. All right. Yes. Okay. And yeah, and the most important is that it helps with your heart. It is strengthens. It's like exercising for heart. Is that all right? Yes, all right. Okay. So just one or two sentences. Not, we don't want a lecture. Okay. Now, and we don't have any verb uh, back to work. We don't have backing to work or back to work. You need to say either go back to work or return to work. Okay.
Okay, I know.
Back is not a verb. Back is a
Adverb.
preposition.
Oh, preposition.
Okay.
Right, totally.
Uh, okay.